Welcome to the Reverie, not esports. The Rift Cup qualifier for the fourth Rift Cup, and is the first qualifier of this month. I'm your caster Effect, joined by Octavian, and we're ready to get started. And I just realized that my mic is muted in Discord, but we are here and ready to go.
All right. And I am here as well. Hello, everybody. Octavian here. I think Effect probably introduced me, but I just couldn't hear him. And yeah, we're into the first game of the day, and I'm not actually sure which teams are playing here. I recognize some of the names. I think that's
This is Last Hope, who did win our
yeah, it's
last
Last
Rift
Hope.
Cup, and they'll be facing off against the Olympic Hamsters, which is a name I absolutely love.
And a new team on the Rift, which is why I didn't recognize them. All right, well, that's quite interesting. I love seeing fresh blood, and I hope they do quite well. They're up against Last Hope, who, as you said, made it all the way to the finals in our monthly Rift Cup, and in fact took home the finals just last weekend, and are quite a force to be reckoned with. So we'll see how far these hamsters can get, whether or not they are, in fact, of Olympic quality.
Oh, it'll be interesting to see. We're at a Zach Fiora ban, and now we're waiting on our next ban here.
I can't tell whether or not Last Hope is having issues with the clients or if they specifically meant not to ban.
That's interesting.
Because they did rotate out of one of their ban slots without picking anything, and they're on to their second one.
Could be the client bugging out. Maybe they did ban something and we just don't see it, or they're just
Yeah, that's another possibility.
letting the bans through. Okay.
With this client, I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case, but we'll have to wait and see. I imagine one of the players will drop out of the lobby if there really is an issue at the moment.
And it's Error got banned, and now we are on our first pick.
Yeah, if nothing gets picked here and it just random locks into something, then I imagine it's an issue with the client, and we may have somebody who's either AFK or unable to interact at the moment. Let me try and message some folks, see if I can get them in line. No, Caitlyn, first pick. All right.
So it's going to be a Caitlyn for... They're not quite in order, so I don't know who's going where.
Well, Ethog's the jungler, Cavelli is top, Noah is AD carry, I believe Wasori is their sub-support, or perhaps their jungler, and maybe Korra is the sub-support, because usually Painless isn't the support. But on the other side, it is a Lulu hover. I like Lulu picking into a first pick Caitlyn because it denies a Lulu from a Lulu Caitlyn lane, which is one of the most oppressive lanes in the game, has been for a while. And alongside that, you can just kind of go with a really solid first string meta pick or something really comfortable for one of your players. I don't really have much of a prediction here as to what that would likely be. Tahm Kench sort of fits the bill more of a comfort pick and actually is rather interesting alongside Lulu because it means that one of these two is going to be going in a solo lane or the jungle since you've got two support picks as your first two drafts.
It could be a top lane Kench. I guess we could maybe see the return of a solo lane Lulu, but I don't know if that's as likely as a solo lane Kench.
Yeah, at the moment, I think either mid Lulu or top Kench is what we're going to be seeing this game, and it's really difficult to tell which. But Nidalee gets locked in, yeah, for Ethog. And we'll see what else is prioritized here. They don't really need to grab themselves a support at this point. They can wait on that, I suppose, but it would be the safest thing to do. Just go for a Karma, because the enemy's grabbed away Lulu, and Karma Caitlyn is pretty much the other lane you go for if you have a Caitlyn and Karma still on the table.
Absolutely, and there it is indeed the Karma, and Aurelion Sol being hovered.
I would personally love to see an Aurelion Sol. I don't feel like we see nearly enough of this champion. He's very powerful on the right hands, but very difficult to find those hands. Yeah. He's a tough champ to play.
It can be very difficult to get a grasp on how to play him well, for sure. And he's got 5 seconds, and then he may switch, he may not switch. He is going to lock in the Lee Sin, so that is going to be their jungler, probably.
Yeah, so it looks like we've got a Tahm Kench solo lane, is what I imagine, because I wouldn't want to lane a Tahm Kench into Caitlyn Karma. That doesn't seem like a good idea. So Tahm Kench going into top lane, or maybe on a... No, yeah, Tahm Kench going into top lane makes the most sense here. Lisa in jungle and Lulu support. AD carry and mid are what we've got left to pick. over on the side of the hamsters. We'll see whether or not the no ban strat continues for Last Hope.
It seems to be what they're doing. They're just continuing to let all the bans through, and we might see another top ban. We've seen 2 so far, and there's also the jungler ban. To be fair, not sure what the Urgot ban was about.
Maybe just in response to the fact that the enemy team is banning nothing.
Could be.
They
Yes.
want to get on board the meme train as well while it's still leaving the station. Urgot certainly is a conductor of that train. God, yeah, he's getting a rework though.
I did see that.
They're adding shotguns to his legs. Apparently, that's all that I've heard about it so far.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, not really sure how it works. There's going to be some sort of like skill shot involved or something like that. But speaking of champions with weapons for legs, Camille's out of the picture, and I'm pretty sure we're just going to see 5 bans this game, which is weird. And maybe Last Hope is kind of toying with their food a little bit. They may not be respecting the Olympic hamsters. Which is, I mean, it's a strange sentence. Didn't think that one would come out of my mouth today. But that's where we're at. And we're going to get to the next few picks here. As I said, I think they need a mid laner and an AD carry, unless they're doing something very surprising with their composition.
Without a doubt. Really curious to see what they pick here, because this is obviously a lot more picks open than what's usual, and it's going to be an Orianna picked up.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was anticipating. Just not knowing the players, Orianna seemed like the highest chance to be picked, but I didn't want to say anything because it's very likely that there was just a comfort pick they'd rather go for. But Gnar and potentially Corki. Yep, Corki grabbed. So that is a Corki mid, it looks like, in top lane Gnar, as Xayah gets picked up for the AD carry role.
Yeah, that does seem to be the case, and we are all locked in. I think we're just about ready to go here. We just got to get through where they choose their loadouts, and then we'll go through the spectator delay.
All right, give us just a few minutes, folks, and we'll get into the game as soon as we can. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back, folks. And here we are on to the Rift, and we're ready to go. It's going to be between Last Hope and Olympic Hamsters. I had to double check my naming there.
And it looks like it will be Tom Kench support, actually, and a solo lane Lulu as DJ Soki, or Dishyoki, I'm not sure whether that's Norwegian or he's just a DJ, is going to be taking the Corrupting Pot Lulu top with teleport game. And I'm actually rather excited to see how it works out for him.
Absolutely. I'm very probably doing it because a Lulu could probably lane a little bit easier against an Honor, whereas a Tom Kench might struggle.
I think it was part of their plan the whole time, actually.
That is plausible.
Maybe I'm giving them a little bit too much credit for it, but you know, I like to think that the teams do what they do on purpose. And it certainly helps my job as a commentator, both play-by-play and color. And Lulu actually has a pretty damn good lane against a lot of champions. Gnar is pretty resilient and tough to beat out in the laning phase, but Lulu has supremely long range. She's got decent wave clear and very good poke. The problem lies in the fact that she doesn't have very good all-in potential because her damage is relatively low. And in the late game, her damage is relatively low as a carry threat, and she doesn't really have the stats to build into being a pure tank, so she kind of is a laning phase that doesn't work out so well. But that's neither here nor there. We'll have to wait to see how far this game gets and whether or not that becomes a factor.
No Most and Legend of Korra getting some nice solid damage onto Fake and Cosmic Wood Owl.
Cosmic Wood Owl, that's quite a name.
That is indeed quite a name.
I was looking for who had that name at first. I couldn't find them, but no, it's the Tom Kench. It's a good one. I heard Cosmic Wood Elf the first time. I thought it was very fantasy-esque. Solid bet. But yeah, Caitlyn Karma going to be shoving in the lane, going to be getting an early level lead, and going to be getting a lot of harass down, especially onto a Tom Kench lane with a low range AD carry like Xayah, who's got no mobility. Like this is just a recipe to get shoved into the turret over and over again, which is why I was thinking it might be a Lulu support, because that could help hold up to this lane. But they're going with the Tom Kench and basically ceding control of the lane so that they can have a powerful top lane.
Absolutely. Have to see if that works out, but it's definitely going to be a struggle on the bottom side.
Well, if there's any jungler that can help to alleviate that early on, it is Lee Sin. We'll see whether or not Uncle Angel can show up down bot.
Absolutely. Speaking of top lane, Toki's doing alright, but he is falling up behind in CS.
This Caucasian male and Rosori duke it out a little bit. And Xayah Tom is difficult to finish off at the very least, especially post 6. Xayah has a little bit of vulnerability from her ulti, and then Tom can give her even more. It's just that they're going to lose out on a lot of farm moving forward, and that might just cost them more than they are able to recuperate once they're post 6 and maybe pick a few fights.
Absolutely. Both junglers are in the bottom side, though E-Hug is going for mid.
Yeah, it looks like he'll be showing up there just about now. Spear gets dodged very nicely by Caucasian Male, who now gets E-Thug under the tower, but E-Thug wasn't far enough under the tower for it to turn out well for him, and it's first blood still as the spear lands on the way out!
That's too bad. Caucasian Male actually played that fairly well, but could not dodge the
spear. Very much did not respect the range in that spear. I honestly didn't think that it was going to hit either. He had the time to sidestep it, and he simply didn't.
It must have been just the very edge of its range, because I thought it was going to fizzle out, but...
No. E-Thug grabbing first blood is never a good thing if you're against Last Hope, as this guy is a very aggressive early jungler who's more than willing to make use of a lead on a champion that can accomplish that too in the form of Nidalee, so...
Absolutely.
Eyes towards the jungle over the next few minutes as this Nidalee might just start running rampant.
He's back.
You got action in the bottom lane.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, it looks like there's some issues going on in the Discord or Skype or whatever is being used for communication. So they're going to resolve that quickly, just some internet problems. But yeah, Nidalee getting that first blood is a pretty big deal in a game where both junglers are high pressure, high damage early skirmishers. Lee Sin versus Nidalee is all about who gets more pressure on the map in the first 10-15 minutes of the game.
So I'm very curious to see where they take that. Looking at the other lanes, Soke's caught back up in CS, but he is also not backing quite as soon, so he is going to be Maybe falling back. Oh, we're back.
I mean, the very fact that the Lulu lane isn't ahead in CS by a significant margin is actually sort of being behind. Because as I said, Lulu as a laner in terms of top lane or mid or something, basically ever since the nerf to Glitterlance's damage and Pix's duration, is not very strong outside of lane. And so you have to get that lead. It's like playing a Caitlyn lane, but even more focused on the laning phase. You have to get the early lead, or else you have kind of thrown away that aspect of the game.
Absolutely. Soke's actually used his teleport to get back to lane, but Cavelli has saved his. So that could be something we could see being used within the next few minutes.
He doesn't have too many opportunities to burn that. Usually, as a top laner, you're looking to engage bot side, and his laners have been shoved into the enemy turret basically the whole game, which is what you expected of a Caitlyn Karma lane, and it's working out for them. An almost 20 CS lead for Noah is pretty damn significant.
For sure. And we see Ehug being very aggressive, putting a lot of wards in that jungle, and now he's going to catch up.
And Caucasian Male, no summoners left, is an easy target. Just playing too far up the lane without proper vision. It's rough because he had vision on the side of the lane there. If you look in just the side bush, he has a ward. But he wasn't expecting Nidalee to come from his own jungle, which, if you're looking at where Ethug is now, is basically where he's just going to live for the next few minutes of the game, because this guy, once he gets a lead, he does not stop pressing it.
Absolutely. And now he's on his way to say hi to top lane. Might be a little more difficult, but...
Soke seems to understand that he's a little too far up the lane, especially given where Nidalee just was, and he's going to back away. But some really defensive vision from hamsters in general, I think, is what they need literally now. And they're starting to put up that vision line. They've got a pink ward in the entrance to their top side jungle, and they've got a few wards now in the entrance to the bottom side, leading in towards blue buff, which is about to respawn very shortly. So they are reacting appropriately to a Nidalee that's gotten a few kills early. Now they have to actually execute on that as well and keep really good track of Ethug.
Absolutely. If they let Ethug continue to go out of control, this could go south very quickly.
Yep. There's some pings in the Nidalee as Ethug shows up at the enemy red buff to try and steal that away. And both Lee Sin and Orianna are moving in towards it. Lulu flanking in from the top lane. This could be a really good collapse for them, and they manage. No, they don't quite. The heal from Wasori, but there's the follow through. Uncle Angel gets the kill. Wasori claims one as well, but now he's deep in enemy territory. Let's see if he can make it out of this pickle.
He's out of summoners.
No level 6 for Uncle Angel, though, so he doesn't have the kick, but it looks like it'll be just fine. And that brings Lee Sin right back into the game.
Absolutely. That was very nicely played by Olympic Hamsters. Oh no, though.
Cavelli's being clever, sitting around in the red buff bush. Smite from Uncle Angel gets a bit of health back. There's the Lulu ulti as well. And it looks like Cavelli will just peel off. No, he's going to keep on going. Meanwhile, bottom lane, got some poke onto Fake, as he now has half the CS of Noah. I mean, this is just what's just going to keep happening if there's no attention paid to that side of the map.
Absolutely.
While we're talking about jungle attention and such.
Cosmic Al and Fake are just struggling so much.
No knocks towards Uncle Angel. I mean, the guy did just get 2 kills defending his own red buff, and that was the right play at that moment. But he's on a clock bot side as well, and that clock just accelerated. Ethug showing up. There's some great damage on Cosmic Woodal. He goes down, and Piltover Peacemaker takes down Zaya.
A valiant attempt to keep alive, but 3-member down there, just they're less than half health. So there's just nothing they could do.
And this is going to be first brick. The culmination of a Caitlyn lane is getting that gold lead, shoving in continually, doubling your opponent's CS and getting first brick. This is basically exactly how it's supposed to play out in the textbook Caitlyn Karma lane.
Absolutely. And now that they've got that, we're going to see the dragon and probably lane rotation.
Lee Sin is on his way towards the dragon pit, though. Might get there in time to try and steal it. No, doesn't seem like he's moving there anymore, no. He's hanging out in the jungle. And that will be the Cloud Drake, and as you say, likely a rotation from the Caitlyn Karma to the top side, which to some degree kind of shuts down the whole Lulu lane idea as well. Once Caitlyn Karma get out of the lane and are able to just swap up top side, Lulu doesn't have a lane to bully anymore. Not that it's been very bullied so far this game in the first place.
I noticed that he was keeping Cavelli fairly low in health, but Cavelli was kind of just still keeping ahead in CS, so it evened out. And Cavelli never died, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, close doesn't really count in League of Legends. You can't just bring somebody low and win the lane off of that. You have to actually finalizing the kills or CS better than them. Some tangible numeric value, something objective.
Either you need to kill them or you need to keep them away from the CS so they can't farm. One of the two.
DJ Soki can't really stand up in a 1v1 against Noah most at this point, who has almost finished off his Infinity Edge.
He's getting real close.
And it could be a 3v1 here as DJ Soke turns back around for a little bit of damage, but regrets it immediately. Good ulti onto E-Thug. Prevents him from diving into the turret, but Caitlyn is there with the damage nonetheless. Korra now in the enemy jungle, harassing them back. Teleport going to threaten them out of their own red buff. And here comes the package, pulling Wasori into the fight. Cosmic Wood Owl down to half health. Going to be popping the gray health soon just to survive. But there's the shockwave turnaround onto Cavelli, who gets bursted. Gets the Mega Gnar. The extra health keeps him alive, but just for a moment, it's a 1-for-1 trade. Now Cosmic Wood Owl potentially going down, but he has the gray health he needs to survive. Caucasian Male left high and dry by his team. Has nowhere to run. But it looks like with the outer turret still alive, Last Hope don't quite want to dive a secondary turret.
Absolutely. No, almost getting one more headshot in on Caucasian Male, but Caucasian Male had plenty of health still, so no worries. And now we're seeing a Rift Herald.
The only upside of all that is that Fake has had some small modicum of time to farm. He's been down shoving in the bottom lane slowly. He has managed to catch up somewhat in CS. Previously he was about 40 back, now the gap is more like 20 to 30. But it's a small comfort in the face of some pretty big losses.
Absolutely. Things are quickly getting out of hand. No, almost getting slowed up, but turret is going to go down very soon. Can't quite see its health.
You have to wonder what the correct call is here if you're Olympic Hamsters. They've had the right idea a few times. I liked their defense of the red buff, but they've just been losing on too many fronts to be able to defend all at once. As I said, while defending that red buff earlier, they were losing ground in the bottom lane, and that's translated into a shove top lane as Caitlyn Karma just rotated across the map. They've had too many avenues to have to defend, and I think part of that is down to maybe a bit of a weaker draft.
It's definitely something to be concerned about because the melee support in the bottom lane didn't help with dealing with the pressure of a Caitlyn Karma lane.
Yeah, and I mean not just melee support, so that is part of it for sure. Tom Kench is a melee support with no hard engage. He's got a slow at range. Like the defining characteristic of Tom Kench is that he's this huge health bar that has no mobility and almost no ability to get next to people. He punishes you hard if you let him near you, but Caucasian Male is feeling some punishment as E-Thug gets near him. And Cosmic Wood Owl does drop the Ignite. There's one more tongue coming up in about a second here, but he's not in range. There's the follow-up from Uncle Angel, though, with the third kill this game. 100% kill participation for the Lee Sin, I suppose.
Absolutely. Well, it's true that his ganking pressure was a little low in the early, especially on the bottom side. He's done fairly well for himself.
I would argue that he never even ganked at all. I don't think we saw him show up in a lane. The kills he's had so far are from opportunistic...
That is true, you're right.
...in jungle, or right there in the mid lane. But there's a 3-man stun against the wall, and that is disaster for the hamsters. They are squashed.
Cavelli with an excellent Gnar ultimate, throwing 3 against the wall.
I don't know if Fate can really handle this, but he does manage to claim 1. Now Wasori has to back away with the Valkyrie. But meanwhile, the turret going down. No, pulled back by the Orianna ulti, but there's just no damage available.
Yeah, Caucasian Male only has 1 item, so it's a decent amount of damage, but not enough to one-shot an ADC yet.
Yeah, and Fake for sure is not outputting much damage at the moment. Still a component and a half behind his opponent. And usually this is the point where you'd say Caitlyn's coming out of laning phase. She's going to maybe go into something of a power trough, maybe disconnect from the game. That usually doesn't happen. But yeah, this is usually the point where you'd say Caitlyn starts to fall off. She's no longer in a lane. She can't really bully as hard. But when the Caitlyn has an item and a half lead, or more like just 1 item's worth of components lead over the enemy AD carry, that trough is sort of bandaged over. You know, it's not as big a deal when you're that far ahead.
Absolutely. And it's definitely noticeable. It's a huge CS lead over everybody else in the game. And then also has 2 kills and 3 assists. So that's just not an insignificant amount of gold, and he probably has more that he has. Actually, no, he's just going back to base, so he just spent it all probably.
Last Hope seemed to have just put this game on a much faster clock than the Olympic Hamsters were prepared to deal with. And they don't really have a comp that can come back from that, I feel like. They're very low damage in the late game, so they can't really rely on just waiting it out if they can even survive that long and then getting to the late game and carrying themselves that way, because they've got a Lulu solo lane and they've got Lee Sin jungle. These aren't picks that have disgusting damage and scale to the 40-minute mark.
I'm not particularly familiar with Zaya, but was Rick could be maybe. No, he's fine.
He gets a Karma Shield on the way out, but Cosmopolitan is keeping chase. Tongue doesn't land though, Wasori dodging away from that one, and now just kiting back with the benefit of Karma, and Nidalee is definitely not going to be going down, and in fact gets a kill on his pursuer.
This isn't the fastest game we've ever seen, but it's definitely not going well for the Hamsters.
It does seem to be something of a matter of time before this game closes out, as Last Hope have barred every door back into the game for Olympic.
And we can give some credit to the Hamsters just hanging in there, getting every kill that they can. Though part of that might be because Last Hope is maybe, as you said earlier, playing with their food, so they're not taking this as seriously.
Yeah, I would say that they had Uncle Angel diving into the 1v1, cannot handle it, and meets a bullet on the way out. But I would say that part of that is down to the fact that Last Hope have had like maybe one good fight this whole game. That defense of their red buff, I would say, was actually quite well done. They set up for it well with good vision, they reacted to it well and quickly, and mechanically they played the fight well. But one glimmer of hope does not save a game, and now they're just slowly getting kited backwards into death like that.
Absolutely. They almost,
if
it had been strictly 2v1, they might have been able to take Noah most there, but...
Well, when the enemy team has as much control of the map as they do currently, it's almost never going to be a lopsided fight.
Absolutely. Cavelli continuing to shove this top side, almost taking down Selke, but also almost going down to Selke because he died the turret.
Yeah, but either way, it's just fine for him. I mean, he's got a 25 CS lead now in a lane that is supposed to be a lane-dominant lane. I keep harping on it, but I really do feel like the Lulu going into a solo lane role was something of a mistake, because it put the bottom lane in such a deep hole.
Absolutely. There are some matchups I think it can still do okay into, but Gnar is kind of not one of them.
Yeah, it's not even necessarily about what happened to top lane. It's what happened to bottom lane as a result of Lulu going top, as a result of Tahm Kench being the supportive choice. Now, I'm not saying this can't work. A really well-played Lulu lane can bully back Gnar, and a really well-played Zaya and Tahm Kench lane could theoretically survive Karma Caitlyn. But you don't want to rely on your laners to be really good every time. No matter what team you are, honestly, no matter what level you're playing at, you don't want to put your laners in a position where they have to play amazingly to win. You want to put them in a position where even if they play just mediocre, they can win.
Absolutely, and we're seeing a 4-man shove with Gnar in the top. Last Hope looking to close out these last outer turrets.
The 4-1 split does seem the right way to do it. They've got a massive amount of poke damage between Caitlyn and Nidalee, so they can just keep wearing away at their opponents here. And Corki on top of that, honestly. It's a very solid siege composition.
Absolutely, and then there's just the occasional Karma Qs as well, so that's just tons of range damage coming in, and...
Look at that control of the turret. They're flanking around, they've cornered their opponents. Just a tiny little square of space they're basically not allowed to move out of. If they back away here, they give up the turret for free. If they don't back away, then they eventually get poked down. It's a lose-lose situation. Looks like they're going for the loss of a turret rather than the loss of their own lives and a turret, which is the right call, just not a very fun one to make.
Absolutely. Caucasian and Fake being dropped very low by this poke.
Oh, Uncle Angel going in. There's the kick actually landing on the 3, but he doesn't have a team to follow up anymore. They've all been poked down and have had to back away.
This is Poke is just absolutely destroying them.
Meanwhile, top lane, slowly, that turret will be whittled away at by the Gnar. And over time, Last Hope will gain objectives across the whole map, but there's the ulti landing even through the polymorphs. The animation already started. But Lulu's a little bit too tanky for that. Meanwhile, an inhibitor turret going down, though. As Ethug runs away through the enemy base. I think life is forfeit, but we'll see whether or not he can dodge the Lee Sin Q. Nope, Shoke is there to claim it. But maybe at the cost of his own life. Orianna goes down. Wasori diving to the backlines is unstoppable. Xayah ulti relatively well placed, but it's actually not going to be doing too terribly much. This is a very low damage Xayah at this point. Extremely outdamaged by the Caitlyn, but does manage to shut her down. Cavelli coming in, lands a few more autos, but Xayah manages, no, doesn't quite! Double kill to Wasori!
Oh, valiant effort by Hamster to pick up a couple kills there, but it's just, it's too big of a lead. And it's not just, obviously, Noah most, despite how well know he did. There's also, Wasori has a huge amount of gold, Ehug has a huge amount of gold. Even Legend of Korra has a decent amount of gold with 12 assists.
And it's about an understanding of what your game plan is. Like you saw, the game plan for Last Hope was very clear in all of their lanes. In top lane, for the early laning phase of Cavelli, it was just about surviving and CSing, which he did admirably. In bottom lane, it was about the Caitlyn Karma harassing away the melee support and low range BD carry and getting a huge lead, which they did great. Then they rotate top. They counter out the Lulu top laner by rotating top. Then they do a 4-1 split with their poke comp and they shove in onto a turret. They have a plan of action for every stage of this game, and maybe it wasn't all explicitly planned out from draft, but they realize what is most important at each stage and they react to it appropriately.
Absolutely, and with that, there's 2 inhibitors down before the 20-minute mark. There's only 1 left, and there is not a lot that one thing Hamsters can do to make a comeback here without some drastic, impossible event happening to cause Last Hope to maybe disconnect entirely, but that just doesn't seem likely.
Yeah, seems rather unlikely. Baron is up now, though. Now that we're past the 20-minute mark, as you say, and a team this far ahead is definitely capable of pulling it off. So there's a lot of pressure on the Hamsters to defend this Baron pit, but they've got those 2 inhibitors down. It's very difficult to deal with super minions this early. Potentially a dive in the top lane, though, as Cavelli flashes away. There's the stun. Against the wall goes the Lee Sin, and into the dirt he goes right after. Sent to an early grave. God dang, that damage from Wasori is disgusting, and the man is legendary with his 9th kill of the game. Ethug brings down Cosmic Wood Owl, and this is just a formality now. As Wasori looks for the 1v2, he does manage to find one. No, Xayah with the ulti claims the kill, turns it around, and gets the Corgi unseated from his copter. But it is a very, very small victory in the face of some very large losses.
Absolutely. This is 21 minutes. This is the last inhibitor going down before the 22-minute mark. And with that, we are just going to go through the rest of the formalities of ending this game.
Shoke doing his best to keep his spirits up. Having a giggle in front of the enemy team. And whimsying himself away. Something we will always be able to do, but it's small comfort in the face of some pretty terrible losses. But Noah Most is kiting away Uncle Angel, who is still fighting strong, but not really able to accomplish much. 3 downed inhibitors means super minions rushing in from all fronts, and at only 22 minutes, with only at most 1 item completed on any of their carries, Olympic Hamsters are going to be hard-pressed even just to deal with these supers.
Naturally. And then Last Hope could just, no, they're going to go for Caucasian Male.
There's the package. Valkyrie and Caucasian Male is down. Cosmic Wood Isle is going to try and gain some revenge for his fallen comrade alongside Shoki, and it looks like they'll find it.
That was a
Sorry, overextending a bit.
Very good ultimate by Lulu. It knocked up Corki in the middle of his Valkyrie, so he couldn't get away.
Good timing indeed. But the question still remains, how do you deal with super minions? They've got 3 lanes of these bad boys shoving in. I honestly think Last Hope could just stand in their base for the rest of their game and still win, which it seems like that's what they're doing. That is in fact what they're doing. They're standing in their base and placing wards.
Oh my.
I don't know if you have the camera down there, but go move the camera down there for a half second. They're just standing in their base placing wards. I think they actually can win doing this. Oh no, they're leaving. This would have been a first. I would have loved to see that. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible for the hamsters, and I'm very sad. But
it is pretty mean.
It's kind of appropriate that they're kind of guinea pigs to this to see whether or not it's workable. You get it? Do you get it?
I get it, because they're rodents.
Okay, good. All right, Baron though. I'm gonna go down, I guess. I mean, this game is over. Essentially.
Strictly speaking, there is just nothing. Oh, hello.
It's a Tom Kench. Showed up for a little bit of seafood. He is the seafood, though. Maybe not what he was anticipating. Or at this point, probably was what he was anticipating, honestly.
Absolutely. And with that Baron buff, this game will be ending within the next minute or so, most likely.
Yeah, they managed to hold off one wave of supers at the cost of a Nexus turret. We'll see if they can hold off another while the enemy team with Baron buff is shoving in. The answer for the slower among you in the audience is no. No, they won't be able to. But they will be able to crit Melamos, and that's 3 taps from Fake. He gets a kill back. A little bit of revenge for a laning phase that went pretty damn badly. But I think it's all the revenge he's going to get. No, another kill goes down onto the middle, but the Nexus turrets are falling. The Nexus is under fire by Baron buffed super minions. This cannot last. This is a fantasy that must end. And the Nexus will fall in just a few moments.
Surely only a few seconds left. You gotta give pretty good credit.
One more kill for Reverie. Had to get a little bit more on that KDA, stacking it high up to 12 kills, but the GGs go out in chat, and Last Hope come home with the victory.
Absolutely. Gotta give credit where credit's due. Despite the somewhat lackluster early game, Angel had a pretty good kick onto Nomos, showing him right into the enemy team and picking him up, but it was too little, too late.
Yeah, mechanically speaking, I would say that the hamsters were pretty decent in the team fights that they actually got to participate in. But due to their draft and due to superior laning from Last Hope, they weren't allowed to participate in most of that game. And that is one way to shut a team out. So we'll see how Last Hope does moving forward in the bracket. And we'll see whether or not we can catch another... That was a semi, right?
Quarterfinal.
That was a quarter. All right. Well, we'll be moving into the semifinals then. We'll see how Last Hope does as we move forward through the bracket, guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
And we're back. After just a very, very short break, we are ready for the semifinals. It's going to be between Kinesis Green and Here We Win, or Team 7X, or whichever they're going by nowadays. Here We Win were second place from our Rift Cup number 3, and so they're going to do quite well for themselves, I think.
And a little tidbit that I'd like to let in the viewers on, those of you who don't already know this, Kinesis Green or Kinesis as a whole as an organization and Team 7X have both had the same coach, if I'm correct. I think the guy actually reached out to me earlier. Yeah, MK Bai is his name. And he used to be the manager for Kinesis, and he's now the manager of Here We Win. So it's a little bit of a rivalry between these teams, or at least for this guy, it's a rivalry between these teams. He's got stakes on the new kids, the ones that he's picked up over the other guys. He wants to see them beat them.
Absolutely. They're quite interesting.
So there's a little more on the line here than just the semifinals for Reverie Saturday Night Tournament, which, of course, is a huge honor. Not that there needs to be more on the line than that. Right? Right, Effect?
Yes.
Right? You have to agree with me on this one.
I do agree with
you.
To
lend some weight to our occasion here.
And this is actually a couple teams we're very familiar with, though Here We Win is a bit more new because they just showed up basically last week. Whereas Kinesis, especially Bobby who plays Yogi Bear, actually no, pretty much all of these players we're pretty familiar with from Kinesis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Beniona as well as a top laner. And actually, let's get into the picks here, as they've been going by pretty quickly while we've been highfalutin and chatting it up. The bans are relatively support focused, actually, on the side of Kinesis, which does make sense. King of Uganda is a very aggressive player, and his Thresh is well known, as far as I'm aware. So keeping him off that pick does make a lot of sense. And meanwhile, on the other side, it's just some first string meta picks between Zach, Caitlyn, and Galio. The picks so far have been jungle focused, I imagine, though Gragas could be a solo lane here, and actually has been seeing a lot more solo than jungle play. And Rek'Sai, and then the new AD carry on the block, Tristana. She's been picked up a few times recently in competitive play.
We might see a Bard pick. It's going to be a Lucian for Bobby Big Plays. Can't say I'm terribly surprised.
Yeah, and I mean it keeps it away from the enemy team as well. Bullman is the AD carry, right?
I do believe
they're out of. I think they're out of order at the moment.
Their usual AD carry is actually missing. Bullman is their mid laner.
Oh yes, you're right. So they are in LCS order. They have a sub AD carry at the moment. But yes, Lucian Alistair is a pretty powerful lane, though can be relatively countered if the enemy chooses to go with either Karma or Lulu, both of which are still on the table as their support.
That might be the Lulu. It's going to be the LeBlanc for Bullman, who is quite adept on it. It's been banned against him multiple times that last week. And I'm very curious to see if we see more support bans targeted at King of Uganda, because he is quite the adept Bard player from what we saw last week.
Yeah, I don't think it would be unreasonable to ban out some powerful supports into Alistair. Maybe grab it, focus out his Bard and ban a Lulu if you want to be really focused on the support role, or just the Bard if you want to kind of force him off of his comfort picks. The problem with that is that it does leave the top lane really open, and they're going to put a ban towards the top lane instead with this Kled.
So we need 2 more bans. Very curious to see what they do here. There's the Kassadin ban targeted at Wretched King, so that might force him onto more of a mid-range support like a Syndra or something. And there's the Gnar ban.
Yeah, more of a squeeze towards the top lane, which is curious coming from T7X, because honestly, it's likely the enemy team already has their top lane. Gragas is more of a laner than a jungler nowadays. So it's surprising that the Gnar gets banned out at all. Maybe they have a specific top lane pick in mind that they don't want a Gnar picked into. They don't want to allow Gragas to be flexed to the jungle and then a counter pick top to show up. But Bard will be banned away from Uganda. Yeah.
So it'll force Uganda to play a support pick we haven't seen yet, because he's only played Bard and he's only played Thresh.
Yeah, I think that's actually right. I don't think any team has banned out both against him before, which honestly does seem like the logical move when an enemy player only plays 2 champions. But I'm surprised it's taken this long to get to this point. Morgana grabbed, though, as that will be likely the support here. Yeah, that'll definitely be the support, as Uganda is going to pick up another playmaking support. I mean, it makes sense. Long-range skill shots and big impactful ultimates. That's what this guy likes.
Absolutely. He's got the Black Shield to help negate the Alistair CC.
Yeah, also quite powerful, since it's pretty telegraphed. If you just Black Shield the person he headbutts towards, then they're not going to get pulverized. And it cuts off half of Alistair's combo.
Absolutely. And Retro King looks like he's going to be playing Lissandra, unless it's a. I guess technically they could flex it top, have
Yeah,
Gragas go mid or jungle. It'll be curious. What they pick next will be telling.
I actually really like, and as Jarvan gets hovered, I really like the Lissandra pick into LeBlanc. It does incredibly well in that matchup. If you can get through the like really early laning phase, where Lissandra does have something of a mana problem sometimes, but you can easily snare LeBlanc as she distortions in and then burst her down. And if LeBlanc gets ahead, then you always have the option to fall back on your own ulti. And Lissandra's just really good into burst assassins because she can become invulnerable for a few moments.
Absolutely, and it's actually gonna be the Renekton for top lane,
and which will be countered by a Jarvan here to some. Well, I wouldn't say countered, which will be picked into against a Jarvan, as Thendis will grab that against Beniona. This is a much more exciting lane than we've seen Thendis play before. I've seen him on like Nautilus and Galio and that sort of thing in the past. So I'm excited to see him on Jarvan, on a champion with all-in potential, with damage in the lane, and generally just with a more interesting laning pattern.
Absolutely. And with that, it looks like everybody is in the positions they want to be in, so this could be a very exciting match.
Yep, give us just a few minutes to get in onto the Rift, guys, and we will be right back with you.
So much higher, fly. So much higher, fly. So much higher, fly. So much higher, sky. Lines and clouds are below us now. Sky.
And we're back, ready for the rift. It's going to be between Kinesis Green and Here We Win.
Otherwise known as Team 7X, Team 7's sister team. We've got some fun lanes to watch as well. Nobody's really gone for the old-timey tank v tank boring laning phase, and hopefully we'll get an explosive and action-packed game out of it. Maybe even the level 1 will be explosive and action-packed, as we've got a 4-man stack here on the top side.
Kinesis Green may be looking to catch any invading people who want to put wards, possibly? Or they might go for the invasion themselves, I don't know.
Difficult to successfully invade yourself against a Rek'Sai level 1, though. At least it can be. Depending on what Juicy goes for, though, you'd want to go for the Q. Be really clear, and Juicy, taunting in the jungle, is going to see a wall of enemies walking. And to back away as swiftly as he can.
So that is going to be indeed some nice, little bit of vision down. Nothing too surprising, but we are going to see vision answered back by Here We Win on that bot side.
And actually a previously placed defensive ward from Kinesis spots out Here We Win going in and getting a ward on their Raptors. So it's 3 or 4 different layers here. They know that they know that they know.
And looks like Bobby and Rangito are going to play it safe. They're not even going to go through the jungle. They're just going to go straight to lane.
And Juicy is going to be starting off as his Raptor camp, as will Yogi Bear, and both junglers starting off in full vision of the other as well. It's been a pretty even level 1 with both sides accruing the same advantages as the other.
Top lane definitely has the potential to be very interesting. Hopefully with how much the camera usually likes it, we can see some interesting play.
And Uganda and Aiden playing a little far up in the lane here. Uganda having gone for the Dark Pool. God dang, I can never remember the name of that ability. I just black ground in my head. No, Tormented Soil, level 1. Interested in getting the most bang for the buck out of his Stealthy's Edge, since it's very, very easy to actually proc that, as well as proc Thunderlords, just by placing Tormented Soil under somebody.
It just hits so quickly, it takes like, what, every half second, every quarter second?
It does, however, mean that it's a far lower pressure lane at level 1, but now level 2 has come around, and Rangito going aggressive onto Uganda is going to eat a binding. Probably big place taking a little bit of damage on the way out, but all in all, a pretty equivalent trade. Dash forward from Bobby, and Aiden takes another combo.
Definitely cannot underestimate Bobby. Lucian is definitely one of his stronger characters. And hello.
Juicy down bot side, but he gets headbutted into the turret. There's the flash for the not flash away. Not what he was hoping for when he came bot lane.
Rangito completely shutting down Juicy. Forcing his
Does
flash.
have to burn his flash for it, yeah. Which does theoretically mean that they're at a summoner disadvantage in the lane now, because it was a flash from Bobby Big Plays as well, I think, to try and finalize the kill. So now there's no flashes on Kinesis' duo. Arguably, that's okay for Juicy. I mean, he traded his 1 flash for 2. Probably not the way he meant to, but it actually works out for Aiden and Uganda.
Absolutely, yeah. Bobby and Rangito level down, have to play very safe.
Nice interrupt there from the Gragas, but meanwhile, bot lane, there's that matchup disparity that I was talking about for Rangito. It's going to be very difficult for him to get a WQ onto anybody. There's a flash forward, the Ignite, the Tormented Soil tick as well, and an auto. Bobby Big Place just about survives. Rangito is AFK? I hope not.
He's just chilling.
Oh, he might be.
Nope,
yeah, there's the DC.
No, the good
Pause the game, guys.
good
There
news
we go.
for Bobby is that he did manage to survive thanks to the heal. The very aggressive flash forward by Uganda just wasn't quite enough to finish him, but hopefully Rangito gets back very shortly.
He's very thankful that a kill didn't go down there, because that, I mean, if it did, it could definitely have been prevented by a well-timed exhaust by Rangito, who obviously wasn't part of the fight because he was disconnected. That's unfortunate. It's a result of hosting an online tournament. Sometimes players' internet just doesn't work great, and we can't really handle that all ourselves here. We don't have a tournament realm to play on.
You never can tell with how reliable ISPs can be, especially in North America.
But Rangito seems to be back with us. At least he's moving around as if he is. And the gate top lane that was happening about the same time didn't end up in any casualties either. Just a summoner down from Fendi's, who was a bit overextended, and got interrupted on his flag and drag escape by a well-placed Gragas Belly.
Absolutely.
There's the counter that I was talking about. Very difficult.
Just doing so much damage in return to Bullman.
Yeah, very difficult for Bullman to pull off his full combo because every time he gets next to Lysandre, Lysandre just has to press W. There's no skill shots involved. It's one of the best counters to Distortion. A lot of people will say that Morgana is really good into LeBlanc because LeBlanc moves in straight lines, but Wretched King decent as well. There's Gragas in the mid lane, no flash on Juicy, and it looks like that's their target. The follow-up from Wretched King means first blood goes to Lysandre.
Excellent response gank by Yogi Bear to help pick up the kill on Juicy, who still did not have flash thanks to the bottom side.
First blood going to Kinesis, especially in a lane where it's already a bit of an advantage to the Lysandre, is great for them. I'm actually really curious to see what Wretched builds. Most Lysandres are going to rush a Rod of Ages, since it synergizes so well with the kit, and Lysandre does need a little bit of tankiness since she's relatively low range as a mage. But it would delay her power a little bit, since none of the stats from the Catalyst are combat stats, but she's going to grab it nonetheless.
Absolutely. And the Abyssal Masks now, not the Scepter, it used to be a Scepter, is a little less AP mage friendly. It's still good, but it's not as oriented towards them anymore. It's more of a tank item. So rushing that is less likely.
I think if Wretched King wanted to go for a more damage-oriented route, he could have gone Banshee's Veil, but the thing about Rod of Ages is if you don't build it first, you don't build it, generally speaking, because you need the time for it to ramp up for it to be truly a useful item, and so you want to build it as early as possible. But LeBlanc is running to the bottom side, followed by the Rek'Sai from the river, and I think Rangito's life is forfeit here. Sacrificial cow on the altar.
Quite a bit of CC locking him up for several seconds, and no chance to get out. Very good use of the charge to get over the wall, but by then it was too little too late.
It was a pretty clean setup as well. We've gone to landing the binding at the right time. Nothing really could be done at that point. After the binding connected, that was a dead Alistair. But maybe something can be done about this situation overall. There's a teleport coming in. Jarvan will be showing up. They're outnumbered here still on the side of Kinesis, but they're still moving forward as Renekton coming into the backline is going to be landing quite a bit of AoE damage. The ulti running. Beniona does a lot of work. Wretched King claims a kill. And even in a 4v5, it turns out pretty well for Kinesis.
Absolutely. Very easily picking up Thendy's there, who got left behind because he teleported so far forward.
Now they're shoving in onto the turret. This could be a little aggressive. Bullman is still waiting around the corner. They have full vision of him, though. They had a ward in the tri-bush.
Here comes Rangito, but he's only level 4. He's not level 5 yet.
Bullman dashing in for a bit of damage. Rangito going to push him right back out again. They really want this first break gold. This is a lot of investment.
So they want to try and get it before Hero even gets a chance to push again on that bot side, because that bot side turret is so close to being dead.
And I have to say, I kind of like this call from Kinesis, but they have to make it out of here alive. But they're going back in! Then Iona can find a target. He does have a stun screwed up, but he's not going to get near enough anybody. They don't pay for it, though. Kinesis get a kill back, push in the first turret take, and don't even really pay for it with much.
Only a teleport from Wretched King to help clear the wave out, but he's going to take a lot of damage from Bullman.
Yeah, I was about to say, just Wretched King's teleport is basically expected for that, though Rek'Sai is stealing away a blue buff right now, given that pretty much all of the focus is still lingering towards the bottom side of the map. There's nobody up there to stop him from taking it. And now we see that time-honored rotation of the duo lane top, but with a bit of a change, actually. Lucian has backed first instead of top side. I'm assuming Alistair is going to head back now, yeah. But he did stick around bottom side a little bit longer to see if they can maybe cheese a kill out with Renekton.
With Beniona being quite powerful on that Renekton. He has the Phage. Maybe damage isn't as high as it could be, but he doesn't need a ton of items to deal a lot of damage.
I kind of like that change, that leaving the support behind for just a moment, because generally into most top laners, an AD carry can play just safe and farm out like a wave or two. But Thendy's and Juicy now realizing that Bobby Big Plays is alone for the most part. He's going to be going in, but at this point, Rangito has managed to show up topside. Juicy's popping into the ulti. He's going to come out immediately again on top of Bobby. Exhausted, doesn't have the damage. Thendy's doesn't have it either. He's tossed against the wall, and the culling comes down. It's a double kill for Lucian.
That was such bad timing. They showed up right when Rangito showed up in the lane to CC lock them under the turret.
Yeah, I think bad timing is really the crux of that issue, because it was... Oh, Deniona getting chained up twice in a row. He's turning it around. There's the Call the Meek, but at that point he had already taken way too much damage. Still though, I want to talk about that play top just one last time before we move on to the game, because that really was actually quite interesting that Rangito stayed bot for just another maybe wave and a half worth of time. And that led to Fendi's and Juicy being like, oh, Bobby's alone, we should go up there. And Rangito showed up at just the right time to counter it. I don't know. I like the call to try and dive the solo Lucian, but it was just a little too slow to the trigger.
Absolutely. And it looked like Fendi was going to get Bobby, but then Yogi Bear showed up to save the day with an ultimate from a distance and knocked him away. Kept him just enough range to the calling to finish him off.
All in all, it was pardon me, T7X not reading what their opponent was doing quickly enough. But there's the ultimate Ratchet King. Actually, beautiful black shield from Uganda prevents Ratchet King from keeping Aiden under the turret and gets the Tristana to safety.
Absolutely. Ratchet King's gonna go ahead and back. He might have enough for Rod. He does. There it is.
And he's looking to answer that second turret take on the top side with one of his own. It looks like he'll be successful. As Dragon is the response to that push.
Yep.
So Juicy, Uganda, and Aiden, yeah, they can likely take this. They get just one more wave under the turret. Tristana is very good at shoving these turrets in. One of her strengths at the moment.
Rangito being locked up.
Strengths for a long time.
Rangito, because he's been roaming so much, he's actually was a level behind, but with that Dragon being taken, he's now level 6. So that's the ultimate he needed to really be a tank.
Yeah, I mean, pretty standard from supports in higher level games. You see them fall behind on XP sometimes just because there's so much map mobility involved. I mean, we're only 11 and a half minutes in. We've already seen 4 turrets go down, and we're not in laning phase anymore.
Absolutely.
Laning phase is a very short-lived prospect this game.
And things have really slowed down. We're just seeing Bobby and Rangito just kind of chilling in mid, trying to shove it forward. Whereas Beniona has returned to top lane to try and farm that out.
It's a matter of finding the next objective to fight over, which possibly could be Rift Herald. Some teams really prioritize that buff because it's so powerful at punishing your opponent's mistakes. Rift Herald is really, really difficult to answer if you've just recently lost a fight. And so if you can grab Rift Herald, wait until some other victory shows up on the map for you, like even just a 1 for 2 or something like that, then you can often use it to gain a lot more. But there's Juicy over the wall, knock up onto Ratchet King. He manages, oh no, he doesn't quite. Let's say he manages to cast the E before the chain snares, but it's snared nonetheless. A nice clean kill to LeBlanc.
Absolutely. There wasn't much in the way of vision down there for Ratchet King, so he was just a very easy kill.
Glacial Path is very, very powerful ability, but slow enough that still didn't get him to safety. Engage from Rangito, but a black shield onto Aiden prevents any nonsense under the turret. And Miss Morgana has done a quite good job on multiple occasions of shutting down Alistair.
Absolutely. Though Rangito's been no slouch himself with some excellent counterplay with his knockups.
Yeah, I mean, basically in fights where Morgana isn't there, Rangito. But every time Uganda is around, Rangito's had trouble landing the combo, and through no fault of his own, really. Speaking of Rift Herald, though. Oh, no, we got an engage under the turret. Bullman makes it out. And thanks to the good graces of LeBlanc.
LeBlanc popping his ultimate, actually. Oh, wow, hello.
And Iona flashes out to safety. And it's a shove down the mid lane by 5 now. As T7X are looking to force the turret away.
Hello. Before I got interrupted, Bowman actually popped his ultimate under the turret and it absorbed 2 auto attacks from Bobby, and that's probably what saved his life.
That combined with the fact that LeBlanc can do anything she wants and get out.
That too.
A little salty, a little bit salty. Not quite literally anything, hyperbole, of course, but LeBlanc is very forgiving as a champion. Black shield onto Uganda prevents the slow. It does mean for a few moments Black Shield is down, though. Could be a secondary engage. Rangito is positioning forwards. There's no easy targets.
Tendy's once again back in that top side, trying to push it out. He has the Tiamat, so that is letting him shove a bit harder.
And meanwhile, a wave is getting caught down on the bottom side from Here We Win, as Bullman cleans up a large, slow push that had been shoving towards them for a few minutes. Both sides looking for a gap in the opponent's armor. Maybe even just a good opportunity to use that Tristana, get a shove in onto one of these lanes, and melt a turret quickly before the enemy team can react.
Aiden's got to be getting close to that Infinity Edge. Beniona not wanting any of what Bullman has to offer.
Rangito finds the engage. To knock up onto Uganda, the Black Shield comes out a little bit late. Uganda getting burnt, but there's not enough damage to follow up. He's going to be able to walk out, and Rangito, meanwhile, is going to go down. Juicy gets the kill there, and walks up two in his ult. Then he's coming into the fight. It's a double kill to Juicy. And now Renekton is caught out all alone. Aiden gets the kill. Well kited and well played overall from the side of T7X.
Absolutely. Here We Win doing an excellent job. Basically turning that fight on its head. Kinesis thought they had that.
Well, it was a matter of not being able to kill the Morgana quickly enough. They burned a lot on killing Uganda, and they thought maybe they'd be able to get in and out. First the Morgana and get away quickly, but she didn't die. The plan doesn't work out if the assassination target lives.
Absolutely. I think part of it is Rangito didn't use his ultimate quick enough. He used it at 10% health, which is not significant. And if he'd used it a little earlier, then maybe they would have had a chance to not have him die.
This is what I was talking about. It is possible to use Rift Herald to take advantage of even just very small misplays in the opponent's side. And everybody based him at the same time if there was nothing to defend that mid turret, and so Rift Herald could bring it down. And that is a perfectly valid usage of the buff.
Absolutely, that is going to indeed be basically a turret for a turret. Though they still did lose the fight, so they are a little bit behind in the goal, about 2k at this point.
But nothing backbreaking, I would say. And both teams, I think, are still on pretty even terms, honestly, moving into what I imagine will be a dragon fight in just a few moments.
Absolutely. It's about 15 seconds, and it looks like Team 7X already moving in position to take that dragon for themselves. They have everybody but Thendys, who does have the teleport.
I think this fight, in large part, is going to come down to that differential in teleports, because not only does Renekton have to walk down out of the lane and thus leave a little bit of free farm to Thendys, but also that threat of the split push means that Kinesis have to pull the trigger, and it looks like that's what they're doing. There's the teleport coming in from Jarvan, so they have at least pulled that summoner. If they can disengage here, this actually isn't that bad for them. Beniona lost a lot of health, but oh no, Rangito cut out of the front lines. Even through the ultimate, he's getting melted away. Juicy's on a killing spree. Yogi gonna go down. There's a shutdown on Juicy at least. And there's another kill back to Jarvan. Wretched King doing some work. He finds a third. Wretched King doing some real work this team fight, but I think he's just about expended what he had in the tank. He has to back away with Flash. Oh man, that fight looks so disastrous for Kinesis for a few minutes, but Wretched King did a damn good job of pulling it back a bit.
Absolutely. An excellent use of his ultimate, locking down. Didn't quite catch, I believe it was Thendys trying to flash out. Like, no, I'm going to lock you down there, and they did manage to take him down. And Rangito actually used his ultimate much sooner this time, so he didn't melt instantly. It just was still very fast, though.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. If they had just been able to disengage at the very start of that fight and avoid it entirely, they actually had a really good trade on their hands. Because Beniona lost about half his health, but they pulled Thendy's teleport, so there was no longer a threat in the side lane of Jarvan pushing in and taking a secondary turret, or even just stealing the blue buff, doing anything else elsewhere on the map. It was just the dragon fight they had to pay attention to. But sadly, Ringin was a little too far up, still got caught out at the edge of the fight. And Wretched King had to come in and save the day to some degree, but not nearly enough.
Absolutely. He made a loss not quite as bad as it could have been. Yeah,
that's probably the best way to put it. He turned a catastrophe into just a loss, and ended up losing the dragon over it. See if Beniona can handle 1v1 with Thendys at this point. Does not look like it. Tendies has a lot more burst. And an illusory ally, but there's the knockup landing on the Benny.
Benny's almost has, there it is.
He does
but it might be
pop the Dominus, but it's, as you say, far too little too late, but he does manage to escape. Meanwhile, Yogi Bear coming up the river. We've got everybody coming up the river. There is a huge fight about to break out. Thendy's toss against the wall. Yogi does not land the Q. He has to buy a little more time for the W to come down. A knockup now on to Juicy. Pops into the ulti, lands on Beniona, does manage to claim one, but he's getting chased away. His tail between his legs and his fin just desperately poking out from the ground. Good night, Rek'Sai. I don't really think much is going to come from that. That was just both teams being bloodthirsty. There's no turrets to push, there's no lanes to take advantage of, you can't do Baron. It's just both teams really wanting to kill each other.
Without a doubt. I think that fight might not have been as bad for Beniona if he had Dominus right away, but it was just still on cooldown for about 10 seconds before the Thendies jumped onto him.
Yeah, and possibly part of the reason why Thendies went for it. I mean, cooldowns are known, generally, or roughly known, and players might be willing to take advantage of that. Certainly saw the Dominus in use in the last fight. But Aiden has hit his 2-item power spike here, around the same time that Bobby's hit his, actually. But I want to see this Tristana put to more use. I want to see more shoves onto these turrets. Because that is one of Tristana's strengths, ever since her minor rework, as far away in the depths of time as I can possibly remember. It's been a long time. I feel very old now, looking back on Champions and considering Tristana to be reworked. But nonetheless, ever since they changed it so that she has this explosive shot, has the attack speed buff, can just melt turrets away, she's a tool for shoving turrets in the mid game, and that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. Looks like we might see a rematch at the top side. Here comes Thendies. No. Banyona's like, don't want any of that, so he backs off.
Finding under the Gragas, but Rengito flashing in, does land a knockup at least onto Juicy, follow up by Ratchet King. Looking for a good target to stun up. It looks like they'll settle for Uganda. And it's a pick off on the support.
That's so unfortunate.
Beniona is chasing, but yeah, you can't really go much further.
Ratchet King used his ultimate on Uganda before Uganda could use Zonya's. So they were able to burst him before his ultimate went off.
Uganda has Zonya's already.
Yep.
Okay. Ratchet King without his ulti is in a bit of a dire spot here against Bullman as Juicy lands the kill.
Did quite a bit of damage, but with Juicy there, that was enough to turn the tables for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if Bobby should really be playing this aggressively either. Aiden coming in forces some summoners, but there's the Cohen coming back. Thendies gets Beniona! Yogi glides through a wall. That must have been a visual bug. Aiden's on a rampage though. The resets off the rocket jump, the red buff on the Fat Man. But doesn't quite have the range to keep chasing.
So Yogi Bear getting a good barrel just in the way, making sure that he can't chase any harder than he has. I'm surprised
Baron is on the table.
Alive.
They've got the 2-item Tristana. If they can just tank this Baron up, they'll have more than enough damage to kill it. I was talking about how Tristana is very good at murdering turrets. Well, I guess you can just extend that to being good at murdering neutral objectives in general. Yogi Bear body slamming away after popping the explosive cast. Doesn't have anyone to get into the pit now to steal it, so this should just be a guaranteed Baron.
They did a very good job catching Yogi Bear there, forcing him to run away. A very good binding by King of Uganda.
And slowly, Kinesis have begun to lose this match, and they've had a lot of advantages moving forward. I mean, they got First Blood, they had good laning phases, pardon me, for the most part. These team fights have been kind of sloppy, and yeah, Aiden, as you mentioned, has been just performing so well this game.
Absolutely, he's now at 3 items. We've got the core crit build going, so he's going to hit like a rock on anyone who doesn't have armor.
And he's almost Flame Horizoned. Bobby Big Place, he's got only 20 CS away from being 100 up over his opponents at 23 minutes.
That's such a huge
frankly disgusting.
Yeah, there's a huge amount. Hello.
Not exactly a target you can lock down for very long. LeBlanc slippery and able to escape.
Actually, LeBlanc also running the Banshee's Veil, so not blocked out the first little hit there.
Yeah, Banshee's Veil and Morgana means that Alistair is never going to land his WQ on LeBlanc, basically. Unless there's something that went horribly wrong. There's a flash forward. Wretched King doesn't quite manage the kill. Tristana manages to kite backwards. Wretched King goes down. A leap over the wall from 8. He keeps his perfect record until a cask follows him. Shut down from the Gragas. Oh, double kill to LeBlanc though. See if Juicy's empowered base gets him out. Nope! No, not quick enough.
Oh, it's so close.
If Aiden just hadn't autoed from within the Raptor camp there wouldn't have been vision of him. Gragas wouldn't have known where to throw his ulti and he would have lived. I'm pretty sure.
He might have thrown it blind and still got him, but there's less. It would have been a guess and not a force sort of thing.
Yeah. As Bowman weaves his way out of the enemy jungle.
Oh, Bobby. Oh, there's vision. They do see him.
That was one of the first good team fights in a little while for Kinesis. Well, I say a little while. It's been a short game overall, but if you just count it by team fights rather than minutes, it's been a little while since they had a good one. Bowman dashing in. Bobby does manage to trade about equal, though, in terms of damage.
Here comes Beniota to be a meat shield. Gonna get some stun on the Thendys, but Thendys is very
zoning them off. They just need to keep them away while the dragon goes down. This is a very dangerous dragon take, though, since the enemy team is going to be all showing up. They managed to make it out of the pit in time, and they get themselves an Ocean Drake for their troubles. Should be helpful in surviving against the enemy engages and general siege.
Absolutely. Bobby.
Good dash from Bobby.
Yeah. Dodges the flag and drag, but still takes about 30-40% of his health damage.
Body slam into the flash. The explosive cast doesn't land though, but there's still some great follow-up from Lissandra. Thendy's nearly getting bursted away. Flashes. Fight. Bullman over the wall. Manages to get a bit of damage in, but it's Rek'Sai who falls. Somebody blinking health bars, but it's a double kill to Bobby. Big place. Aiden doing his best. He's getting the resets. He's leaping out of the fight, but Beniota's chasing him down. The damage has already been done. And now Rankido, the only man surviving, has to just wander away from the battlefield.
Absolutely. That's Team 7X coming out ahead despite being engaged on and losing Jersey fairly early.
I mean, that's just the power of Aiden's Tristana at the moment. The guy is doing so much damage.
Absolutely. Even though he...
That static shiv crit, like, took away a quarter of Bobby Big Place's health. It was disgusting.
Speaking of static shiv, Bobby just picking one up for himself, but he is still behind. It's just the CS difference is enormous. And
for those of you not aware, by the way, static shiv can actually crit.
Yes.
The magic damage from it. And it actually follows the crit rules of Infinity Edge. So that's why you often see it built alongside it, because the shiv damage will be increased by the Infinity Edge as well.
They're very synergetic with each other.
Which offers a nice little bit of magic damage to an AD carry, which is actually really potent if you can weave in a tiny bit of magic damage, because it does make enemy armor stacking a little bit less effective. Not much, though. It's a small thing.
And the Bullman picking a big void staff for himself is going to make him a little bit harder to deal with, as he'll be ignoring that magic resistance to some degree.
Kinesis are out of their base at the moment, though, searching for some vision and trying to wipe it off the map. They have lost their inhibitor turret bot side, so they have to be very wary of a potential push down there from, honestly, anybody. Just waiting for a stiff breeze to blow it over. And there's 2 teleports on Here We Win, so very, very doable for them to have a split push at pretty much any moment. Looks like maybe Bowman will be taking that responsibility as he's heading towards the bottom lane.
He does have the gunblade, so he does have the slow and a bit of auto attack power. Nope, Aiden can't quite get close enough to shoot over the wall. Just out of range.
Yeah, I think Yogi was fine either way, though.
Yeah, there's very low threat, but it doesn't hurt to get more damage where you can.
Bowman has kind of put Kinesis on the clock here, though. He's going to keep shoving in that lane. He's going to eventually get to the inhibitor. And he will do some decent damage to it, especially with the gunblade. He's got a little bit of AD. He can actually hurt an inhibitor a bit. They're rather squishy.
Thendys and Binion have a very similar build so far, but Thendys has the finished Guardian Angel.
Add to that the fact that Thendys just generally is going to scale much better into the game as Jarvan, and yeah, Beniona cannot handle this 1v1 anymore. I mean, a full item up and a better scaling champion. Not a recipe for
made
success.
a huge damage. Benny losing most of his health very quickly.
Rangito, frustrated, butts his head into a bubble. Very aggressive bubble pop.
It's a very strong bubble. It resists a charging cow.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Rangito this game, honestly. This guy has not had a lot of freedom because there is a Morgana on the enemy team, and Banshee's Veil, and now a Guardian Angel on the Jarvan. There's just nobody that he can engage on that can reliably be murdered very quickly. And that is Alistair's job. He wants to set up murders for his team. There's just no one who can do that anymore.
Absolutely. And noteworthy because he's done a very good job setting up very powerful CC chains. It's just it's getting harder and harder now that we're getting into the later game.
Yeah, I mean, you're against a Guardian Angel in the top lane, or a LeBlanc is a mid lane with Banshee's Veil, and Zonya's Hourglass on the support with a Quicksilver Sash and the AD carry. There's some method of preventing CC or damage on every single champion in the enemy team's lineup.
Absolutely.
And they have a hard engage comp. They've got Lissandra and Alistair and a short range bursty AD carry. They don't have a way to win this game outside of killing people quickly. And the enemy team is not easily killed quickly. It's kind of just a war of attrition. And I would say the Kinesis aren't really set up to do it, but that's what happens when the plan actually works out.
Absolutely. The Bullman's Banshee Veil was not active at the time, and so we see Richard King using his little claw to get forward and then flashes for the ultimate, and they just lock down the Bullman and pick him up.
It came at such a cost, though.
Yeah.
I mean, two-man engage on the bottom side with arguably their most powerful member in the form of Lissandra, though Lucian's starting to step up, has stepped up, means that Baron goes down, means that they lose out on another huge objective elsewhere, and that's fine. I mean, if I were that LeBlanc, I'd be happy with that outcome.
Absolutely. And the item difference between Bobby and Aiden is continuing to grow, with Aiden working on his last item.
Rangito is just slamming his face into a brick wall at this point. He's got nobody that he can engage on reliably. His Black Shield once again thwarts his plans. Small objective on the map in the form of Dragon. It looks like Kinesis are tired of giving up objectives.
Yeah, Wretched King baited out the Black Shield, so it's not going to be live for a couple of seconds.
Flash forward for Rangito, but the combo whiffs as a flash away from Uganda keeps him from getting the W portion. Woman over the wall, a lot of damage into Yogi Bear. Distorts his way back. And Guido now having to pop the ulti to escape from a binding. Looks like Kinesis may just have to fall back. As the dragon goes down, an attempted steal over the wall, but it is secured actually by a crit from Tristana. As now the fight breaks out in earnest, a lot of knockouts. It is a bouncy house in the middle of this fight both ways, but it looks like Kinesis did not pay the ticket fee, and they are not allowed in this bouncy house anymore. They are trying their best to escape, but the security is very stiff here. Flash forward from Thendes, the Cataclysm comes down, and it's a flash away from Gragas. And 4 members alive still, 5 members alive, pardon me. Uganda made it out. He flashed away. They're going to shove in down the bottom lane.
Absolutely. Bobby never even had a chance in that fight. He still popped the heal, and Fendi still just evaporated him.
This very well could be GG. They've got a Tristana with a rapid-fire cannon shoving down in onto these turrets. Bye-bye. They're going to melt.
Jesus, that was not even 2 seconds.
Yep. Aiden's on a killing spree, and a turret killing spree as well. The man just has no respect for architecture or the sanctity of human life. He is a Yordle after all. And there goes the Nexus.
A valiant effort by Kinesis. Had some excellent plays here and there, but here we win, once again, heading on to the finals.
Indeed. And we'll see whether or not we can sneak into the next semi-final match. Give us just a few minutes to see whether or not that one started, and if it has, if we could maybe get into it and spectate what's left of it. But one way or another, we'll either be rejoining you with the other half of the semis or the finals once we get to them. Give us just a few minutes, guys, and we'll be right back.
Don't go anywhere, folks.
marked only by frozen memories. It's fine. Racing on these broken dreams.
And we're back. This is going to be the finals between Last Hope and Here We Win. A bit of a rematch on our hands here.
And Thresh is banned.
I can't say I am terribly surprised.
Yeah, King of Uganda's Thresh has seen a lot of bans, not nearly as much play in Reverie, and it looks like it will continue to be banned away. The only question, I think, is whether or not Bard gets banned out as well against Uganda, since that seems to be his fallback option whenever Thresh is out of the picture.
Absolutely. So we might see it picked up here, but maybe not. Who knows? We will just have to wait and see. It's the last opportunity to ban it for sure, and they have one opportunity to pick it.
True. I don't think Bard is I think he's going to get banned. I don't think he's a valuable enough champion in terms of the straight up meta to first pick it, just as a denial to Uganda. So it's a better option to ban it if you don't want him to have it than to try and first pick it. As you might want to go for, well, I was about to say a Caitlyn, that's out of the picture, or maybe something like Rek'Sai or Galio as your first pick.
Absolutely.
One of these really top tier champs at the moment.
I think I'd like the Rek'Sai a bit more. Thendes is fairly versatile player that he can pick up, and he's played Galio, he's played Jarvan, and so not super.
You could even go for something like Jarvan. Oh, Jhin.
Lock in that Jhin pick nice and quick. I'm very curious to see what Aiden is going to play. Maybe go back to the Tristana.
Jhin has actually been in something of a bad spot recently. A lot of AD carries don't like playing this champ right now. He's very immobile. His damage isn't as strong as it used to be with the fall off and changes to lethality. His laning phase isn't great into a lot of picks, though. Of course, Caitlyn's out of the picture, so it's not as bad. I'm not saying you can't play Jhin in the current meta. You can certainly play him decently. He's got his strengths. You can make use of those. I'm just surprised that it's a first pick that lets through Gragas, I guess, which probably wasn't too high of a priority, and Tristana to pick into the Jhin. I think maybe T7X are as thrown off by this pick as I am, because they're going for some pretty reserved stuff against this. They're like, okay, we'll get Gragas and pick an AD carry then. You go again. Show us what else you're doing.
Absolutely. And Legend Core are going to pick up that karma for himself. So that means we might see Uganda play Alulu possibly?
Yeah, that's still on the table as Rek'Sai gets through. And that's going to be going over to Team Hope. Team Last Hope, pardon me.
Absolutely.
Very different connotations.
Very much so. And Bullman going to make a return LeBlanc. To the LeBlanc, yes.
Yeah, and I mean, LeBlanc does make sense here. There are a few laners that can do pretty well into it, but Bullman's already demonstrated that he does well sometimes into those counters. Lissandra is arguably a straight-up counter to LeBlanc in a lot of ways, and he did just fine in that matchup. And LeBlanc does really well into an immobile AD carry like Jhin, especially when the enemy support doesn't have any hard CC.
Absolutely, and that is going to be the Casted and the Kha'Zix band out there targeting the jungle a bit more. There's the Fiora.
Fiora. Yeah, Fiora is generally regarded to be a little bit overtuned at the moment. Well, it depends on who you ask. I say a little bit overtuned. That's the mild way of putting it. A lot of people would scream overpowered at you and maybe shake something or hit their desk angrily. But Fiora is generally determined to be too strong. And so being banned out makes sense. In fact, I would say that aside maybe from Camille, basically all of the bans are sort of just meta-focused bans coming from T7X.
Absolutely. That's going to be Thendes Jarvan taken away. It's going to force him into something else like an R.
Yeah, Gnar is probably the safest blind pick top laner outside maybe of Jarvan or Galio. Though, actually, I would say even safer than either of those, because both Jarvan and Galio do have their weaknesses in laning phase potentially.
That's really odd that they're saving King of Uganda's support pick for last.
Yeah, trying to see as much as they possibly can of the enemy team, and it's going to be a Swain into LeBlanc. That is cool. I actually quite like that.
Might be difficult to land the.
Or is that?
Could be.
Is that that's a Lucian into LeBlanc. That is a Lucian into LeBlanc and a Swain. Sorry, I just glazed over the Lucian pick because I'm like, we have an AD carry already. No, it's a Swain top lane and a Lucian into LeBlanc. And I actually really like Janna here because there is almost no hard CC in the enemy team. Like, there is nothing that they can do to prevent a Janna from peeling. There is so much peel now. Gragas and Janna combined are going to just end Tristana's natural peel in long range. It's going to make it almost impossible for them to kill this Tristana in team fights.
Absolutely. I'm not sure. Very curious to see what Last Hope does here, because this could I'm not particularly fond of what they're doing here. It's very squishy composition.
And with no hard CC to lock down the Blanc or Tristana, got almost no way to really focus in on a carry and kill them. And the enemy team has two incredibly slippery carries with some great peel drafted in the rest of the comp. This is going to be really, really difficult team fighting for Last Hope. So I think they have to maneuver around team fights, avoid them, and take skirmishes with champions that are actually quite good at that, between Karma and Lucian and Rek'Sai.
Absolutely. And with that, we are entering our spectator delay, so we are going to do a quick commercial break. We're actually going to have a video to play, so be careful, guys. The volume might not be quite where it is. Feel free to give some feedback into the chat on if it's too high, too loud, or too quiet. And for next time, we'll be ready for it a bit better. So we'll be back, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Today, your connection to a game server uses the internet's basic default routing. Chances are, that connection doesn't follow the best possible path. And, if the connection encounters any kind of congestion, your performance in the game takes a big hit. Literally, in esports, if you lag, you lose. But when you use Haste, your game traffic is handled end-to-end on our dedicated fast lane. Haste is proprietary network software running on our customized infrastructure. That means we will always know the best routes between you and the game server. And Haste connections are dynamic, which means they switch routes instantly to avoid trouble, without any disruption to your gameplay. Haste gives you a competitive performance edge in the game and a defensive shield against problems on the internet every time you play. Sign up for our public alpha by visiting haste.net.
and we're on to the Rift, ready for the finals, and we're getting ready to get started here. There we go. Jeez.
It's going to be a finals that's a grudge match and a rehash of our last Reverie Rift Cup finals between Last Hope and Here We Win, or Team 7X, depending on which moniker you want to go with. They go by both names. It's going to be Last Hope on the blue side, by the way, and T7X on the red, and it looks like it's a standard line of scrimmage between both teams. We talked a little bit about the draft during, but I would just like to mention once again that I worry for Last Hope's composition if they can't find smaller fights.
Absolutely. If they can get a big enough lead very early, they can just bull their way through. But if it stays even, they might end up in trouble in these later team fights, if they even team fight at all, obviously.
Yeah, they've got a composition that doesn't have a single scrap of hard CC outside of, I suppose, Never Move, if that lands. Jin Snare, and Rek'Sai's knockup.
So there's some snares,
and
but
a snare from Legend of Korra, actually.
Yeah.
So there's 4 ways in which they can hard CC someone, which is like you get that number, you get that amount of hard CC in one champion sometimes. Like, let alone across a whole team.
Whereas conversely, Here We Win has a significantly higher amount of crowd control, for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Nautilus only has 3. His passive, his Q, and his ult. But yeah, there are champions with like 3 or 4 hard CCs in their one solo kit. That's a level 1 action, though, as Cavelli gets autoed away by Fendi's. Slows him down with Beatrice. And the festivities begin. This is a lane that I'm quite interested to watch as well, because they first picked this Jhin. There was priority on this pick, so I have to imagine they have a plan going into this. They have something they want to accomplish with this pick.
Actually, the mid lane Lucian isn't particularly common here at Reverie. He's doing a pretty good amount of damage. He doesn't heal too, not teleport.
Yeah, and mid Lucian has been seeing a lot more play just generally of late. So I'm not too terribly surprised at the pick, though it is odd into an assassin, from what I'm aware. Usually you pick it into mages and you're able to out-duel them with some high heated amount of burst. But Wasori seems to be doing just fine for himself, and he is certainly a competent mid laner. I don't argue against the competence of any of these players, or even against the coaches. It's just this draft does seem like it has a glaring weakness.
I'm very curious to see which way the die falls here. See, Cavelli's doing an excellent job bullying Fendi's.
Yeah, I would definitely say that while their later game, like mid-game and late-game teamfights might be lacking due to their lack of CC, Last Hope have definitely picked winning lanes for themselves. Lucian is a bully, Jhin is a bully into a Janna lane, and Swain is really, really powerful as a top laner. So they've got all these lanes that are going to be constantly shutting in. Maybe they can make use of that with some invades from Ethug, who's historically a pretty aggressive jungler.
Both junglers taking the scare, maybe? No, it's going to be Juicy going to mid lane, possibly.
Both junglers actually heading into the opposing red buff side, as just now Fendi's is going to get some minions delivered to him. We'll see whether or not he can catch up. Actually, it looks pretty likely, as he's got quite a few under that turret, and Nar's pretty good at farming. Noamos getting leapt onto, the slow landing from the rocket jump. Noamos exhausted on his way out. He does pop the heal, some good damage turnaround from Legend of Korra, but Noah has to flash away. Aiden doing his best to kite back now as Uganda takes him with a few shots. He has that last crit charged up, but he does not have any targets for it. And a good trade for Aiden and Uganda, I would say, as Aiden managed to hold on to both summoners and Noah had to pop his. Fendi's, though, probably going to go down for first blood here. Does go over to Cavelli because of that dot, and Cavell actually nicely sidestepping the chain, flashes away before Distortion can come up, and he's out of there clean.
Absolutely, very well played. Cavelli almost going down to Bullman's teleport.
Leap in from Aiden and Uganda. They've got the summoner advantage, and they've got a jungler coming in. There's the body slam onto Korra. Looks like he'll be able to flash away to safety, but Noah most peels the other direction into definite despair. Dash in now from Bullman is an even trade in the mid lane. Culminates with a few more autos.
Absolutely, Bullman. Wasori actually doing a very good job sidestepping the chain from Bullman, so that could have made the difference if it landed, but it did not land. Bullman's struggling to deal with this pressure. Not going to be able to farm very easily under the turret.
Back in the bottom lane, Aiden has still managed to hold on to both summoners here. So there's still quite an advantage when matched up against Noah Most and Korra, who don't have a single summoner left to their names. So I'm going to keep a close eye in the bottom lane, where not only has Aiden finished off with the F-Sword and is going to have quite a lot of damage coming back into the lane, but they've also got a huge advantage in a flash and heal on the AD carry. So they could very well force something.
Absolutely. Aiden doing a very good job holding on to summoners and not dying. Putting the pressure on to Noah Most. Very curious to see what Cavelli builds first here. He has the blasting wand, but no rod, so he's not going for Rod of Ages, or sorry, no catalyst, so he's not going for Rod of Ages possibly.
Well, he likely is still going for Roa. It's probably just that when he had to base there after LeBlanc shoved him back, he had enough gold for blasting wand, and it was the most effective use of his gold.
That's a good point.
It's going to also give him the damage to keep bulleting back Gnar. That's kind of been his job in lane so far. Managed to glean a 10 CS lead for himself. There's a speed buff towards the Tristana. Aiden does still have both summoners available, though. The heal keeps him alive. And that summoner mismatch comes back to bite them, but they do manage to at least get them both. The Never Move stops the Gnar on the way down to bottom lane. Fendi's now in a 1v1, a level down. But the last crow doesn't do it.
It's so
Cavelli didn't have flash.
Fendi's is in single digits, it looks like. Very close to dying.
It's fine, though. I mean, he didn't even need that kill. He canceled the teleport and he shoved the Gnar out of lane. He denies even more guy. Honestly, that kill would have just been icing on the cake.
For sure. Fendi's is definitely having a struggle of a lifetime here in that lane.
Knock-up lands from E-Hug. Uganda gonna get ulted onto, but the heal comes down. E-Hug can't make it under the turret, and Aiden gets his support to safety, rather.
Absolutely. The Bullman also making out with barely any health. E-Hug overstepping his aggression there, pays the price, giving another kill over to Aiden.
And already we're seeing symptoms of what I was worried about. They get the 3v2 bottom lane, but they just don't have anything to lock them down with. Aiden gets knocked up once, and then he's just able to flash out and keep kiting backwards. There's nothing to stop them from simply leaving these fights, and they've got the longer range. They've got the better kite. They have to win these lanes really, really hard, and they're doing a pretty good job of that. There's a CS lead in literally every lane right now.
But in the
Some of them larger than others, but
absolutely. Aiden's 2 kills are going to help even out the CS disadvantage in the bottom lane. Fendi's is still not having a fun time.
he has just now hit level 6, though, and he's almost at full Gnar bar. So Cavelli does have to play carefully. Could be tossed against a wall here and finished off.
Where are we at in the mid? Well, sorry, picking up the Hex Drinker to help mitigate Bullman's LeBlanc mid damage.
Okay, snare chaining onto Uganda. E-Hug looking for the knock-up, but Aiden just leaps away, and once again, they don't really have anything to hold them there.
They got as much CT chained as possible onto Uganda, but it just wasn't enough.
2 snares in a row, but E-Hug wasn't able to land the Unburrow, and that was the critical CC. That was the one that had to land for them to get the kill. Still, though, as I said before, CS leads are growing. It's 10 CS minimum lead for every single lane so far, which has transferred into about a 1,000 gold lead overall. But you're going to need a lot more than that if you're compositionally at this much of a disadvantage, which, personally, I feel like they are. And then Uganda playing aggressively here. Slow into Noah Most, trying to get as many autos in the space of that explosive shot as possible, but a snare into Uganda chases him. Aiden takes up the front line once again. Deals some decent damage to Noah, but here comes the curtain call. Countered by a heal, but it gets interrupted. There's the burrow over the... trying to go in for the kill. Does follow up with the ulti and gets it under the turret, but his life is like... No, he finds a tunnel from his dive. And he makes it up to safety.
Very nice snare by Noah Most there, long range. Managed to lock that Aiden, made sure Aiden couldn't chase any further.
But Bullman's in the bottom lane now. Flash away from Korra, but the bounce gets him nonetheless off the sigil. Wasori rooted up, and that is likely a dead Lucian as well as the bomb goes off. Tick, tick, boom. Juicy joining the fight, but he just about sidesteps a snare. And it looks like Cavelli won't get much for his teleport.
him being there is at least going to prevent any aggression from going on to No Most and E-Hug. But that's another kill going over to Aiden.
It does mean that Thundies is going to get some free time in the top lane, though. I'm going to farm up another wave or two and start to close the gap.
Oh boy.
And maybe even Cavelli going down in this bottom lane is a possibility. Flash away, doesn't quite get hit by the Gragas slow, but the snare lands nonetheless. They're under the turret now. But his crows will not keep him up.
Absolutely.
And now first brick is potentially possible? No, Aiden and you can roll base.
Yeah, this looks like No Most is going to be able to get there in time. They might be able to push up and take that turret because it is so close to being dead before Aiden and Uganda can return to lane.
Thundies gets a lot of much needed time catching back up in that lane. Goes from a 25 CS deficit to only 10 or so, which is pretty damn significant. This Swain was winning his lane the hardest out of all three, I would say. So that has now swapped over to Wasori, who, despite having gone down once, is still 30 CS up. But that's counted out to some degree by 2 kills from a well-placed run from Bowman.
Absolutely. No Most and the Legend Core pushing up nice and hard onto this turret. That turret is only 2 or 3 autos away.
Bowman is actually sitting on exactly the same amount of gold as Wasori, despite being 30 CS back.
2 kills and an assist.
Juicy with the cast, does get flashed away from. Cora now the one caught out from the team though. And it looks like Bowman will get himself another kill off his... A get out of jail free card for this LeBlanc.
Absolutely. Calling doing a lot of damage to Thundies, but I think he's going to be just fine.
Alright, Cavelli has run to the bottom side. There's the curtain call, but E-Thug is already retreating. Let's see if Cavelli can take on the role of frontline here, doing some great damage to Juicy. Follows it. One more.
Your mic cut out there, but yes, one more auto was enough to finish the job onto Juicy.
Bowman turning back around. E-Hug manages to knock him up. The root lands. E-Hug might get out alive. No, Aiden looks to finish him off, but now he's caught in enemy territory. He gets the reset on the leap. He's got Janna coming to help him out. The Legend of Korra is flanking on the side. Snare will connect. The slow is there, but Korra doesn't have the damage to 1v1 himself. And meanwhile, Noah Mos is more interested in this turret going down than that 80 carry falling.
Absolutely. They want that first brick to help even out the gold a bit more. Actually, they are actually in the lead right now, despite the kill difference. It's the CS there.
But I would personally say that compositionally, they're working from a gold deficit. Just because their team doesn't have the tools needed, I think, to beat out a LeBlanc Tristana comp with a Janna, they need to have enough of a gold lead to make up for that. And I don't think 1.1k is enough. They need to have like a 4k gold lead this early on. And that's simply not materializing for them. The Executioner's calling first item from Thundies. A lot of respect to Cavelli's Swain.
Absolutely. He's looking to make sure that healing reduction is nice and early. Because if they don't deal with Cavelli's Swain, it could be very problematic. Oh boy, Wasori's in trouble.
Yeah, Thundies opting into this 1v1. He knows he has Meganar coming in. There's the flash into the wallop, and the wallop's done. Goodbye, Wasori.
Wasori not respecting the Thundies' damage output. Sure, he doesn't have what you'd consider optimal items to deal with an 80 carry at this stage of the game, but that health difference made it all just more relevant.
That and the fact that it just walked melee range into a Gnar. I mean, the biggest advantage you have against a top laner, against a Gnar or Swain or whatever it happens to be, as an 80 carry, is that you have range. And he face checked into a bush and immediately gave that advantage up.
Yes.
Doesn't work out well. Looks like blue buff will be the point of contention here, as Bullman works away at the last remaining few bars of health in this turret.
Bullman dodging out on the snare from Cavelli. It's going to be very difficult for snares to land on Bullman like that.
So he has to go to the blue, but it looks like he wants some blood for it. The ulti coming out, lands it onto Juicy, following up, gets the blue buff back, and a red boot. Snare now on to the Janna. Legend of Korra following up with some good damage. The exhaust comes down just to slow him up. Ugana's going to flash out of the curtain call, though. A few more shots fired at the AD carry. Teleport now in from behind, but Bullman biting off way more than he can chew. Does get the kill. He might even make it out. No, he gets rooted. On the way around the corner, he distorts backwards, but Wasori is there. He just needs one more auto, but he doesn't have the range. There it is. Slow off the cutlass and a dash forward.
That was relatively insane. I thought Ehud didn't realize Ehud was going to die instantly. The Hex Shrinker looked like it might have been on cooldown because it hasn't been used apparently. Or maybe he didn't have it.
Leap away from Aiden, but he's still burning. Couldn't escape Cavelli.
Cavelli is a monster. His scoreline is amazing or anything, but he has quite a bit of gold still. And poor Aiden is a squishy Tristana with no magic resistance just yet.
I suppose we can classify Jin ult as hard CC. Because it is an 80% slow, from what I recall.
It is a...
And there's 4 of them. That's a pretty good engagement. Outside of that, their engages are relatively limited. Speeding forward or Rek'Sai with a Karma Shield is basically their only other strong option to pick a fight.
Look for some picks, but they don't have particularly great pick potential either. It's not bad, but it's not amazing either.
Anyways, the Dragon goes down. Last Hope are definitively in the lead, but I still worry for them if this game goes long, and I think they need to speed up the clock a little bit.
Both Aiden and Bullman are doing quite well for themselves. They're at a CS deficit, but they have lots of kills still. That helps even things out significantly. Bullman once again working on that Gunblade.
Pretty stock standard for LeBlanc these days. Getting that extra burst in with your combo as well as the slow is super valuable, and even the Omni Vamp is kind of disgusting on a champion that already has so much flexibility and maneuverability. Having even just a little bit of healing makes you that much harder to kill.
Absolutely. Ehud and Korra hanging out in that river, kind of near the Rift Herald, but too dangerous to take at the moment for sure.
Well, you may speak a little too soon. Looks like both sides really want to take this. Last Hope are content with shoving it mid first.
Absolutely. Though Last Hope has all 5 members near Rift Herald. They're ready to take it.
There is a ward in the back of the pit though. It hasn't been spotted out, hasn't been swept. I don't think they even know it's there. And Juicy could come over the wall, go for the steal here. He is 1 level higher than Ethug, but it doesn't look like he's going to commit. And Rift Herald gets traded for a turret, and I imagine the Rift Herald will at some point trade that turret back. So it's actually a favorable trade for Last Hope, provided, of course, something disastrous doesn't happen.
Absolutely. Looks like... Oh, hello.
Okay, Juicy hard engaging onto Wasori here, and it doesn't get out, but he does still have the flash leap in from the AD carry. Aiden claims it and dashes back out immediately.
Indeed, and then that's kind of an odd choice by Last Hope to go to top side. They are going to get this turret, but they're going to lose the mid turret for it as well.
Yeah, because of a staggered dispersal across the map, Last Hope actually come out on the worst end of that trade. It wasn't just Rift Herald and a turret for a turret. It was 2 turrets for Rift Herald and a turret, which isn't worth it in the end.
Indeed. Things are looking... I'm not going to say grim. It's even gold, but as you've mentioned, the composition kind of put things a little more in favor of here we win.
Yeah, Last Hope are on something of a ticking time bomb here. They don't have the tools to deal with a late game Tristana or LeBlanc. And now just breaking the 20-minute mark, I don't know that they're far enough ahead to shut them down early. But there's still potential for this game to break wide open in some smaller fights, like I was talking about. If they can pick 2v2s or 3v3s, then they can come out on top. They can make use of these tools that they have.
Absolutely. Cavelli surprising Juicy in the jungle, but Juicy able to get some distance. Still got snared, but Cavelli not.
This is one of the issues with LeBlanc. She's just not very punishable, so even shoving that far up into the lane, allowing Last Hope to flank her from that sort of angle, she can simply walk away, and Last Hope don't even commit, don't even try to chase her down because they know they're not going to get that.
Absolutely.
They ain't going to get that.
And despite the magic resistance that's been built by E-Hug, he still lost a huge chunk of health from just a couple of abilities.
Yeah, I mean, MR needs to be backed up by health. Health needs to be backed up by MR. It's the endless cycle of defense, and he simply doesn't have the health to back it up at the moment. Only a Ruby Crystal worked into that phage, and that's it. Hopefully he does manage to get a little tankier as the game wears on, but I doubt he gets tanky enough to deal with Tristana LeBlanc.
Indeed. And both teams kind of centering around this Baron, except for Bowman, who has teleport.
There's Curtain Call. The most powerful engage tool that they've got, and it looks like they're burning it on Aiden as actually his jump gets interrupted by an Unburrow, but he still manages to flash over the wall. Follow up by the Rex side, but Ethog just can't finish the kill himself, and they cannot stick to this Tristana. Cavell now flashing to the backlines, but Aiden simply walks away. Juicy body slams out, and all this time it was a 4v5. LeBlanc is shoving bot.
No almost missed the last shot on his ultimate. If it had landed on Aiden, they might have killed him, but it just barely missed.
I mean, at the time of that shot, though, he still had heal. He still had flash. If it was going to hit, he would have flashed it, or he would have healed. They don't really have what it takes to stick to Aiden unless everything lines up perfectly. Like you say, they basically have to land at least one Jhin ult shot onto him to slow him down. Then they need like a Karma snare or Jin's own snare. Then they need a follow-up from Cavelli, because he's probably not going to go down to that, because Uganda's probably going to peel for him. And they need a knockup from Ethug. They need everything to connect onto Aiden. And as I mentioned last game about laning phase, when it was like a Caitlyn Karma into a Tahm Kench, you're putting yourself in a position where you have to play perfectly to win. And you just don't want to do that. I'm not saying these players aren't mechanically adept enough to potentially land everything, but why make it so you have to?
Definitely paying. Oh, hello. Not taking a lot of damage, but
Uganda's actually a pretty important target. If they can take this guy down, there's not a lot of peel now. Not nearly as much, at least.
And this could
So
be,
a team fight is much easier if one breaks out.
Absolutely, they can take this dragon basically for free.
Oh, there's
Wow.
the root landing onto the LeBlanc. That's a death sentence.
Was
Okay.
Bullman's distortion on cooldown? I didn't get a chance to see it. That's the only reason I can think.
He had used it to get over the wall. He was picking that fight. And Uganda was getting vision too far up. I mean, this can still happen regardless of composition. If players make the wrong decision, they can get punished by any chip.
Absolutely. This is going to be a turret going over to Last Hope. They got a couple kills they desperately needed, and now going to take some objectives for it.
Yeah, I mean, any talk about meta or comp or that sort of higher level stuff always assumes players on equal footing. And if a player is simply caught out of position, if a player is far too far up in the river or uses their cooldowns improperly, then yeah, a champion matchup doesn't matter as much. Meanwhile, the Thendes is doing some work, able to get a secondary turret in the top lane, and Wasori maybe a bit too far up this time.
He's going to use the calling to scare Bullman back a little bit. He's going to force him to distort away.
Cavell simply walking into the face of the enemy team. Zhonya's up and at the ready. There's the Janna ulti though, and Aiden is relatively untouched. He's still putting out some damage. Keep your eyes on this Tristana or this Swain. They're kind of the two cornerstones of the team fight. But the inhibitor turret going down means that Last Hope can kind of walk away. They don't have to take any more here. They've already got a victory, but if they can catch Aiden, that's an even bigger win. Shut down onto the Trist.
Not respecting the knockup by E-Hug. He was able to just tunnel forward and knock him up.
This is exactly the sort of lead they needed to have if they wanted to close this game out realistically. It took them a bit longer than I thought they would. Thought we'd see this sort of position, maybe not an inhibitor down, but this sort of gold lead 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. But better late than never.
Absolutely, and now we're in.
He said about a 25-minute game.
Yeah, they're going to retreat back. They're going to try to avoid fighting, but they're being chased down here.
There's a teleport behind them.
Denny's does not have a rage bar though, so that he could get very easily bursted down here.
Just like that. Well said. There's the Zonias after Bowman dives in. Just, E-hug to the back line. A little overextended. And here comes Curtain Call. Almost has to worry about Bowman coming in, though. Snare doesn't land. Oh, that could have been another dead LeBlanc. Cavell doesn't have a lot of mana left to chase this with. Neither does Noah. But the root connects. And now it is a dead LeBlanc. Okay, calling from Mosori. He's in a 1v3, taking on the world. Lucian versus everybody. And everybody wins, turns out.
Indeed. But that is going to call it a win for Last Hope. They got the inhibitor turret and several kills.
They got the inhibitor.
Yeah.
Like, that was, by all rights, here we win just getting a little bit of cleanup after they lost an inhibitor. A consolation prize for a fight already lost.
Absolutely.
And they lose the consolation prize fight. That's like getting the silver medal and falling as you climb up onto the podium to receive it. Or even worse, getting the silver medal, when you climb up to receive it, the other guy has both gold and silver. And you're left with bronze.
Indeed. I'm going to say Thendy's making a mistake with the teleporting way too far ahead of his team, and just instantly dying because he didn't have any rage bar at all.
Now Baron is a point of contention. A real fear that Here We Win have to worry about.
Indeed, we got... Bowman is doing his best to hold off the super anyway, but LeBlanc isn't exactly the strongest pusher in the world. A lot better now that they've added a bit more AoE to her kit, but...
Fendy's tried to find a good opportunity there, but now Meganar has run out and he's going to get bursted here. A root landing onto the Tristana is exactly what they need. And Last Hope, I mentioned, if you have limited tools, you have to land all of them. Don't miss every shot when I'm about to say that they hit everything. God dang it. You completely invalidate my point as I'm making it. Noah, why would you do this to me? This is just desserts for making me a liar as a caster. He was chunked down to a third health by a LeBlanc.
Juicy, despite dodging every single of the curtain call shots, still ends up going
He
down.
He didn't dodge them. Noah missed them. There's a difference. Oh, sorry. It's Wasori versus the world once again. We know how that works.
He does play valuable distraction as they whittle down this mid turret. Thendy's is
Potentially?
very low.
Yeah, Korra's on a killing spree here, as now the mid inhibitor turret will go down. I don't think they can stay for the inhibitor though.
No, it is a little bit too dangerous still. They're less than half on most everybody except Korra.
Well, I think at this point Wasori has to know that he can't win 1v3.
One would hope.
Thankfully that knowledge has not come at too much of a cost for his team, as the 1v3s have always happened after they've already won a significant fight.
And with that, that opens up another inhibitor at the 28-minute mark, roughly.
And the bottom one is, of course, still down for a while, so Baron is still a huge threat.
Cavelli actually
just a
going for
matter
that
of,
Leandri's Torment. That is going to give him a bit of health damage, give him a little bit extra durability as well, and that should help shred Thendy's and Juicy.
I quite like that, because he doesn't have any really way to get to the back line reliably, so having the ability to kill the front line, if that's what he has to do, is a good call, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Having tank busting ability.
Very curious to see if he builds a magic resistance item like a Spirit Visage or an Abyssal Mask. Both can work quite well with his kit.
And now I think it's just a matter of playing around this Baron. The knockup sort of lands on the Juicy. It said he was airborne, but he still managed to dash away. Nonetheless, though, the bullets with the calling doing a lot of work. A few more bullets coming his way, some very selective ones this time. But it looks like his team is body blocking.
And that is going to
And
force...
instead of Baron, Last Hope head for the opening hit.
Yeah. Why take Baron when you can take an inhibitor?
That's a good point.
They're going for it.
And there's nobody to stop them. Double AD carry composition wrecks that. And the Mantrid Inspire is going to get them all out to safety pretty quickly. Bullman eats a crit on his way in to try and trade a bit. And E-Hug comes over the wall looking for the Unburrow, but not finding it.
He doesn't have flash, so he has to use the burrow to get close enough.
Some good timing in the redemption to top them back up for a fight that looks like it's about to break out. Juicy coming in with the body slam. Cavelli's the target, but he has Zonias. He's got the sustain from his ulti, and this is not an easy target to burst down, even with the cut healing. Cavelli tossed backwards, though, by Tristana. Ulti Adrian can kite this one back. Maybe, just maybe, he can make this into a victory for his team. Another crit over the wall. E-Thug goes down, but neither AD carry has been touched. And Bullman is in dangerous enemy territory. Does manage to flash from the culling, but Noah is dominating. Wait a second. Did Supers just finish that kill?
Yes, I believe it did.
Oh, man.
And that is
I
going
was
to be...
about to say, Noah's nowhere near that, Jana.
I didn't see what else could have hit him. It had to have been minions. If it had been another player, that
Yeah, there was a dead super right next to him. It must have been the perpetrator.
Indeed. Well, sorry, going for that. Another dragon. It's going to be an Ocean Drake. And that is 2 inhibitors open. We might see Baron being picked up here.
It does make the most sense. They don't necessarily have to go for it. They could instead pressure top lane if they don't feel like they want to give the enemy an opportunity to fight outside of their base and take like a clean 5v5 team fight. But I don't really think either decision is incorrect.
Absolutely. I think part of the problem for Here We Win is that their front line isn't durable enough. They are dying almost instantly. Mega Narthendes is just instantly went down still.
Yeah, the problem is just the only problem that could have happened this game, where they fell massively behind in items early on. And actually, it wasn't even in laning phase. It was just in some unfortunate decisions in team fights, and Bullman potentially caught out here, does have the zonies to buy some time, but he gets bursted away as soon as he comes out of his statuesque form.
Here comes Tendies.
And he gets interrupted on his jump in. Flash on the keeping his AD carry. Dave, what a jungler.
Absolutely.
Here comes the ulti from Jin, the follow-up engage. And the final shot will land for a godlike kill onto Jana.
I gotta give a huge prop for E-Thug. That was a beautiful flash on Burrow onto Tendies, preventing him from getting close enough at all. I'm betting Tendies is...
Wasori versus the world once again. Rematch. Wasori doesn't win. Oh man. Here comes Aiden. It's a double kill, or a shutdown for him though, as he manages to finish off Noah Mose, but E-Thug is continuing to chase it. Maybe not a good idea. The chase turns to be to his detriment, and the Baron doesn't go down.
It doesn't go down, but
They
they
will
do
get the second turret top though.
Oh, they get both Nexus turret as well with just minions. The power of double inhibitors being down and no one defending.
Wasori did not learn his lesson yet. Had to be taught it again. That's okay. Now it's a shove in onto this last remaining inhibitor turret, as you say. Yes, Nexus turret went down as well. And Here We Win's base is just in shambles at this point.
Absolutely, things are looking grimmer and grimmer. And Tendies has that frozen mount now, so he does have the utility of the auto tech slows, but he's still a little lacking in the armor department. And that is what he desperately needs, because I feel like Wasori and
desperate,
Noah... Oh, hello.
This is a desperation Baron if I've ever seen one.
Absolutely.
Playing on the fact that they saw E-Thug basing, they went for it as soon as his recall finished, but there's a teleportation right into the pit.
It's from Cavelli.
And there are some flanking members coming in. Yeah, Cavelli can buy time. He can just sit there healing up, damaging them away. Baron shreds magic resistance, so Cavelli has a hell of a time in the pit. Does get secured by Gragas, the smallest of victories in the face of ultimate defeat, as I imagine they're just going to shove in onto the Nexus now.
Absolutely. King Uganda going down to E-Thug. E-Hug. Why did I say E-Thug? E-Hug.
His name is E-Thug. He's changed his name recently to be clever.
So he's now friendly.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that the enemy team currently disagrees about that friendly nature, and it looks like it's going to be the end of the game.
The GGs go out, and it is finals going over to Last Hope once again in the second round of the second grudge match between our returning champions. Last Hope take home the victory and 4 qualifier points.
Absolutely. So on that note, that is going to be the end of this qualifier. This is the first qualifier of the month. There should be 3 more, and then of course we have the Rift Cup, our 4th one, at the end of the month. And so on that note, we'll be ending our broadcast. Give a quick shout out to our sponsors. You may have noticed the ads that were being played during the spectator delays. So of course we do have Battlefy, which is the website that we run our tournaments on, that helps create our brackets, and it helps everybody get into games that we need. Then, of course, we do have Haste, which we did have a video ad played right before the finals. Don't know if it was too loud or too quiet. I'll have to look back and make sure I adjust the volume as necessary. They are a kind of a VPN service that helps reduce lag from point A to point B, because ISPs sometimes make you go a little bit out of your way getting your data from where it needs to be to where it needs to go. And then last but certainly not least, we do also have Vibi, which is the website we use to create our highlight reels, which you can of course find in our Discord. We have one for every tournament. And I believe that is... Nope, I'm forgetting one. Sorry. Deeko, which is a apparel and other merchandise company. They sell figurines, shirts, that kind of thing. You can check out their website. And with that, we'll be ending our broadcast. Hopefully we can see some of you guys next week, and good night, folks.